December 10th, 2019, the U.S. Congress unveils 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump. If Congress votes on these new articles, Donald Trump will become only the 3rd president ever impeached and the first, think about this, the first elected president ever impeached in his first term.
The House Committee on the Judiciary is introducing 2 articles of impeachment.
The first order of business for members of Congress is the solemn act to take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
The articles put forward today will give us a chance to show that we will defend the Constitution and that our oath means something to us.
The Democrats today unveiling the plan, Speaker Pelosi moving forward, uniting her caucus with a narrow case against him here, introducing just 2 articles of impeachment. Now, this is not a situation where they're throwing everything at Donald Trump and seeing what sticks or narrowing on the House floor what people want to vote for. And that means tonight, as we go through this, there are a lot of things that are potentially impeachable that are left out of these articles. Say obstruction of justice, remember all that in the Mueller report, or direct references to bribery or even election crimes, which are implicated, as well as Donald Trump's legendary self-dealing, promoting his own hotels as government business, or using something that past Congresses have used, the argument that a president brought disgrace on the office, like, say, Johnson, or violated Americans' rights, like the draft articles of impeachment against Nixon. Instead, what we're seeing, and I'm going to walk through all of it with you, is the Democrats are building a case solely, completely, and exclusively on the president's actions to try to extort Ukraine for help with his reelection. 1 article on abuse of power, 1 on obstruction of Congress. Now, what's going to happen? The Judiciary Committee is going to begin meeting almost immediately to mark this up and then presumably approve these articles. Then it goes to a full vote on the House floor. I'm going to take you through the evidence the Democrats say they've already gathered, which is central to what happens next, because they're going to begin making this case. And while that's happening, of course, there's also been a flurry of other news. The DOJ clearing the FBI of any bias in the Mueller probe, but the DOJ's own boss, who's audited by that kind of report, is continuing his public attacks to undercut the DOJ findings. And we have more on that later, as well as a very special guest with inside knowledge. And as the DOJ stands by the Mueller probe, today of all days, we saw the legal resolution of a key Mueller witness, one of the final Trump aides to be sentenced. Prosecutors recommending probation, meaning 0 jail time, for former senior Trump campaign aide Rick Gates. And this development, you see Mr. Gates right there from back in the day, well, this development includes some shade for Donald Trump himself that is relevant to impeachment. In the filing, these prosecutors note Mr. Gates received pressure not to cooperate with the government and helped them anyway. Recall, of course, Donald Trump attacking people who cooperated with Mueller as, quote, rats. Now, what's the White House angle as all of this stuff is happening? Well, they're basically telegraphing to at least their own supporters, you can ignore what the evidence says, ignore what the Democrats are doing, and they're predicting that Donald Trump will ultimately be able to beat any potential conviction in the U.S. Senate, where Mitch McConnell is saying this Trump trial will come, if it does come, after the holidays. So right now, I want to do something that we've come to do quite regularly around here. I want to show you the evidence in what the Democrats say is the reason to do something that almost never happens, to impeach, and they argue, remove and disqualify from office again, ever holding office again, the president. So there's 2 pieces to this, and in order to break it up, we're going to do the abuse of power, the big Ukraine plot, first, right now. I'll get you the rest later if you keep watching. This new article accuses the president of using the powers of his high office to solicit illegal interference of a foreign government, Ukraine, in 2020. Now, the article notes Donald Trump, as many people have seen, pushed the Ukrainians to publicly announce an investigation into Biden. The evidence of that is largely provided by Donald Trump himself. In the notes of his call that the White House released, we have him asking the Ukrainian president famously to look into Biden at a time that no one knew that was going on. The impeachment articles that are out new tonight, though, they go further, saying that Donald Trump wanted the investigation also into this theory that it was Ukraine rather than Russia that did any 2016 interference. And this is really striking. The articles of impeachment themselves says something very simple that anyone can understand, and you see it on your screen. They say the fact that the idea that Ukraine rather than Putin interfered has been totally discredited. You probably know that because you consume the news, and you've probably heard witnesses meticulously discredited and debunked that theory. But here's what I'm going to tell you now. There is a new public debunking of this, which is relevant to any Senate trial of Trump. And perhaps sadly for Donald Trump, it comes courtesy of his own hand-picked FBI director.
We have no information that indicates that Ukraine interfered with the 2016 presidential election.
It is that simple. What you saw on your screen is new from the FBI director from the Trump administration, and it matches the new article of impeachment. That theory discredited. Asking a foreign government to help you prove that discredited theory, the Democrats are saying tonight that's part of why this president must be impeached. Now, they're also arguing in these articles that Donald Trump did not act alone, but used agents within and outside the U.S. government pursuing this plot. We've seen evidence of that in the hearings as well as in nationally televised interviews.
Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and I worked with Mr. Rudy Giuliani on Ukraine matters at the express direction of the President of the United States.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
And then the crux of the case. Donald Trump was not just requesting some sort of generic international review or investigation. He was, and this is what we're going to see. This is maybe part of why the Democrats want to keep this so focused and narrow. They're saying he wanted it, and he conditioned any announcement of the investigations on what we've heard about. The $391 million that Ukraine was so desperate to get, which was authorized under U.S. law, as well as a visit at the White House. And that evidence, of course, has also been presented in hearings.
I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign.
The possibility of a White House meeting was being held contingent to an announcement.
Was there a quid pro quo? The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. What you're seeing on your screen here is the case and the evidence. It will ultimately be up to Donald Trump's lawyers and staff to fight this out. And people may agree with the evidence in the Senate and still acquit him. But there is a lot of evidence here. And the Democrats in these impeachment articles do something else really important. And I think this is a little bit new. We follow this stuff pretty closely around here, and we've been scouring it with our team all day. They make the case that when the president got caught, he relented on the quid, but kept pushing on the quo. Let me explain. The argument here about impeaching Trump in these new articles, which we now have for the first time, is that when busted, Donald Trump gave up on attempted extortion. Ukrainians got most of the money that he had frozen. But the Democrats say in these new articles he was still guiltily, corruptly pursuing the thing, the quo. The articles say after everything and after all of the whistles blown and all of the public heat, the president, quote, persisted in openly and corruptly urging and soliciting Ukraine to undertake investigations.
We do that all the time with foreign policy.
Well, I would think that if they were honest about it, they'd start a major investigation into the Bidens. It's a very simple answer.
Very simple answer. That's now evidence in this rare thing, articles of impeachment and ensuing markup and vote and potentially Senate trial of the sitting president. Mulvaney and Trump have, of course, walked back the claims I just showed you, but they are public statements. They are what are legally called admissions against interest, deemed more credible because they look bad for the people who said them. They are part of what Democrats argue is now a mountain of evidence that the House will consider once these votes are held, and it makes a judgment on Trump's fitness for office. These articles close on a quite somber note, and I'm going to read it to you. They argue, in all of this, President Trump has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as president and subversive of constitutional government, and that he will remain a threat. I want to repeat that. That's the Congress speaking about the current president. He will remain a threat to the Constitution if allowed to remain in office. And not only the Democrats in the Congress argue, does he warrant impeachment and trial, but also, and this is a separate question in the Constitution, they argue today, for the first time in writing, removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So goes the case. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.